Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to teach you about arrays of objects and most common operations and algorithms that are performed on arrays of objects. This topic is very important for everyone who is trying to learn about algorithms and data structures, and also every single developer should know about the things that I will teach you in today's video. And at the end, I have a practical task for you that you can use to practice and to upgrade your skills on your own. And before we start with the topic of today's video, as many of you already know, for the past year, I have been working on a practical programming course. And the goal of this course is to help you to think as a programmer and to build that strong, in-depth understanding of programming. So this practical programming course will 100% lead you to getting your first job as a software developer or to getting a better job if you already have one. And I am going to be your mentor. I will systematically, step-by-step guide you through the entire process. This is going to be a complete journey from beginner to expert in programming, and we will solve a lot of real-world problems with code. And I will also teach you and pass on you all of the experience that I have acquired in the past 10 years of coding. Because this community means a lot to me and you have been supporting me for years, I feel like you deserve a special discount when compared to other people. So I will put a link in the description that you can use to sign up. And once the course launches, which will be soon, I will send you a discount. But make sure to do it right now. It's completely free, but the number of people that can get this discount is limited. So again, if you're interested, make sure to sign up right now. So with that being said, let's proceed with today's topic. So here I have the code that I have written beforehand, and here we have a class called student. Each student has these 4 properties: name, age, gender, and programming grade. And it also has this parameterized constructor, which receives these 4 parameters. And then based on the values that we receive inside our constructor, we are going to assign them to the properties of our student, and we are going to construct student object in that way. And all of this code is inside public area of our class so that it is accessible outside of the class as well. Okay, so that is the code that we have so far. And if you're not familiar with some of the things that I mentioned, make sure to watch my video about classes and objects. I will link it here and also in the description. And if you don't understand the idea of constructors, then you can watch my video about different types of constructors in order to understand this code in detail. So what I want to do now is I want to create an array of students and initialize it so that we have some data to work with. And in one of my previous videos that will be linked here and also in the description, I explained different ways on how you can initialize an array of objects. So right now I'm going to use the fastest and the most appropriate approach for this case. So here I already have the code for initializing an array of students, and I am going to explain it very quickly. So with this, we have created an array called students. It is an array of 5 elements, and it is of type student, which means that inside it we can only store students. And then you put these curly brackets, and at the end, please don't forget the semicolon at the end, because otherwise you are going to have an error. And then inside these outer curly brackets, you have inner curly brackets for each student that you want to add to your array. So the first student is John. He has 20 years, he's male, and his grade is 9. So we use this constructor here in order to create each student for our array. So this is one approach that you can use in order to initialize an array of objects. Okay, so here is our data that we will use in order to work with for this video. So the first thing that I want to teach you is how you can search through an array of objects. And I will show you how you can write an algorithm to do that yourself. So how you can do that manually. Okay, so here we have an array of 5 students, but we could also have an array of 500 or 5,000 students, and you would use the same approach. So what I want to do, let's say, for example, that I want to find a student whose name is Alice, and I want to change the programming grade of Alice to 10, let's say. So what I will do is I will write a for loop that is going to iterate through the entire array. I will compare the names of students inside the array with the name that I want to find, which is Alice. And once I find match, then I will change programming grade of that student. So let's write that code. I will say for int I is equal to 0, I is less than or equal to 4, I plus plus. Okay, one very important thing to keep in mind is that indexation of the array starts with 0, not with 1, with 0. That means that the first element of your array has the index of 0, second element has the index of 1, and then third has the index of 2, and so on. So the indexes of this array here go from 0 to 4. And it is very important that you keep that in mind, because otherwise you can get a very, very dangerous bug, error, exception that is called index out of range or index out of bounds. That is very common error, and you should already be familiar with this if you watched my previous video about arrays of objects. I will link it here. I will also put it in the description, so make sure to watch it if you skipped that video. Okay, so here I have a for loop that will iterate from 0 to 4, and inside it I want to find student of I dot name. So what I want to do is I want to check if students of I dot name is equal to Alice, because that is the student that I'm searching for. What I want to do in that situation is when this condition here is met, what I want to do is I want to say, for example, let's print Alice found at index, and then let's print the index of Alice, okay, like this. And what I want to do also is I want to take this student, I want to take Alice, and I want to change her programming grade to 10. So this is how you can iterate through your array of objects and find any object based on certain criteria. In our case, that is the name of student. Now, one very important thing is that once you find this student, and as you can see here, Alice is on index number 2. That is third position, but that is index number 2. Once you find Alice, there is no need to search any longer. There is no need to check Eve, Saldina, or any more students that you have. So in that case, once I have found my student and once I have changed her programming grade, what I will do is I will simply say break, which means now please leave this for loop. There is no need for you to execute it any longer and to take resources of my computer, because I have found what I was looking for. And this approach here is how you can search through an array of objects. So let's run this program to check if the code works as we expected. And as you can see, it says Alice found at index 2. So 0, 1, 2, and the code works correctly. Another algorithm that is used very often with arrays of objects is sorting algorithm. So now I will show you how you can sort this array of objects. And for that, I am going to show you a library that contains a lot of different methods, a lot of different algorithms that we can use in order to work with our data collection. So that library is called algorithm, and you need to include it. So you need to say include algorithm like this, and inside it we have a lot of methods that we can use in order to work with our arrays of objects. So one of those methods is sort. So let's sort our array of students. Now this sort method receives 3 parameters. The first parameter is pointer to the beginning of our array. And as you already know or should know, the name of our array is the pointer to its first element, which means that the first parameter here will be the name of the array. So that is the first parameter. The second parameter is the pointer to the last element of our array. So since we have 5 elements here, the last element is students plus 5. So the pointer to the first, and then we move 5 more spaces in memory, and that will be the pointer to the last, to the fifth. And then third parameter is a custom method that we have to write. Now, what is this custom method? Well, imagine if someone told you in real life, hey, you have this array of students, can you please sort them? You would have some additional questions, right? You would have questions like, do you want me to sort them by age or by grade or alphabetically by name or something like that? So you would need some additional information. And the same way, our sort function needs additional information on how to sort this array of students. Because sorting an array of integer numbers is much more simple than sorting an array of students. So here we will have to pass it a custom method that will tell to this sort algorithm how to sort students. So let's say that we want to compare these students by grade. So let's write compare by grade. Okay, and this compare by grade will be the method that we will implement. So let's do that. So let's see how we can implement this method. I will put its implementation here, and there are two important things regarding the implementation. First thing is that it needs to return bool type, so true or false. And the second thing is that it needs to receive two objects of type student in our case. So I will say bool compare by grade, and here two parameters, so student S1 and then student, oh my god, student S2, like this. Okay, so inside this method here, I will provide it a way to compare two students. And here I will say, please return if student1 dot programming grade is less than student2 dot programming grade, like this. Now, what this here means is the following. If student1 dot programming grade is less than student2 programming grade, that means that in general, student1 is less than student2. And not in some negative, judgmental way. It just means that student1 will be before student2 in our array. Okay, so that will be the result of this function here. And now what I can do is I can test this program. So let's very quickly write a for loop that will simply print the names of our students after they are sorted so that we can check if this works correctly. So here I will say for int I is equal to 0, I is less than or equal to 4, I plus plus. Okay, and then we are simply going to say cout, and then let's say students of I dot name, and let's put an end line like this. So now if I start the program, let's see the result. Okay, so here are sorted students by grade, and then here is our initial array of students. So Saldina is first, she should have the lowest grade, it's 7.2, and then it's Bob, Bob has 8, and then Eve, 8.5, John has 9, and Alice, who has 9.2. Actually, we changed the grade. We changed Alice's grade to 10 here, so Alice has 10. Okay, so as you can see, our sort function works correctly. And if you wanted to sort these students from the highest grade to the lowest, you would simply change this to greater than. And if I run the program now, we should have students in the order from the highest grade, which is Alice, and then the lowest grade should be at the end. Now let me enforce some good programming practices on you. And instead of passing student S1 and student S2 by value like we did so far, let's pass them by reference, like this. So what is the difference and why this approach here is better? Well, if you don't pass parameters to a function by a reference, that means that you are passing them by value. And in that case, compiler is making a copy of each object, and then it is working on that copy. So it is taking additional time to make copy, and it is also using additional resources. So if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to make a copy when you are invoking a function and passing an object, what you can do is you can pass that object by a reference. And you do that like this, with this ampersand, this and symbol. Okay, and in that case, you are passing the original object to your method, and your method is going to work on the original object. Now, here we have one potential dangerous situation, that now this function can change this student S1 and S2, and all of those changes that this function here could potentially do will be reflected on the original object, and we don't want to do that. So we should not allow that, and in order to make sure that this function will not change the objects that we have passed to it, what we can do is we can now make these objects to be const, like this. So by doing this, we are saying, hey, I'm passing you the original object, but I want to make sure that you cannot change it inside this function here, so I'm making it constant. So everything will work the same as it already did, but these are just some best practices that you should follow in your day-to-day coding and that you should know about. Now, there is something else that I want to show you. So far, we have sorted our students by grade. But what happens if we want to sort them by name, for example? How are we going to do that? Well, for that, we are going to implement a different compare method. I will copy this one and I will adjust it. I will call it compare by name. It will also return bool and it will receive 2 students. But here, instead of comparing those 2 students by grade, I will simply say s1.name is less than s2.name. Okay, so now you may wonder, how does this make sense? Well, it does, because in computers, deep down, everything is numbers, which means that the letters are also numbers. And in order to understand that, you should be familiar with something called ASCII code. And ASCII code stands for American Standard Code for Information Interchange, and it assigns a number to every letter. For example, lowercase letter a is in the background number 97. Lowercase letter b in the background is number 98, and then c is 99, and so on. And also lowercase and uppercase letters are represented with different numbers. So that basically means that you can compare 2 letters and you can say which one of those 2 letters is bigger and which one is smaller. So in this case, this function is going to sort our students in the ascending order, meaning from the A to Z. So if I use this compare by name inside our sort, and then I start my program, I expect my students to be sorted in the A to Z alphabetical order. So Alice, Bob, Eve, John, and Saldina. Even though in the initial collection here, they are not in the alphabetical order. And then if you want to sort them in the reverse order, you would just change the sign here. So if I start my application again, as you can see, now they are sorted in the reverse order. Now there is also another way to reverse an array, and that is with the help of a function called reverse. So I will write that function here. So you simply say reverse, okay, and this function receives 2 parameters, and those are these 2. So it receives a pointer to the beginning of the array and then a pointer to the end of the array, like this. So now if we start the program, as you can see, students are in A to Z order once again. There are 2 more very common operations that you would use on an array of objects that I want to show you. And those are finding max element and finding min element inside your array. So there is a function that is used for that, actually 2 functions. One is max element and another is min element. So let's say max element, and this function receives 3 parameters. It receives the beginning of the array, and then it receives the pointer to the end of the array, okay? And then here it receives a method, custom method, that it will use in order to compare objects. So here I will pass it compare by grade. And you need to make sure that this compare by grade is ordering elements from the smallest to the biggest. So we need to change this sign to be this. So student 1 is smaller or less than student 2. Okay. And then this method will correctly return max element. Actually, it will return the pointer to the max element of our array. So what we should do is we should store that element inside a variable. So I will say student pointer because it returns pointer. And I will call it max grade student, like this. Okay, so this is going to be my method. Let me put it in a new line. Okay, and now once I have my max grade student, what I can do is I can simply say cout, and then let's say max grade student is, and then let's say max grade student, and I am using this arrow because we are working with pointers in order to access the properties of this object. And here I simply want to print the name of my max grade student. Okay, and let's put an end line because at the same time I want to show you how min element method works. So I will simply copy this and I will here say min grade student, and instead of invoking max element, I will invoke min element method. It receives the same parameters, so pointer to the beginning of the array, pointer to the end of the array, and custom method that will be used in order to compare objects. And here I will say that min grade student is, and then min grade student, and I want to print his name. Okay, so I don't need this code anymore. I will comment it, and now if I run my program, let's see what is going to be the result of these two methods. Okay, so max grade student is Alice, and then min grade student is Salina. Let's see if that is correct. And Alice has 9.2 and Salina has 7.2, so the result is correct. So that would be all for this video, and as I promised at the beginning, I also have a task for you that you can use in order to practice, and the task will be the following. I want you to create a class called product, like I did here for my student, and each product will have name, type, and price. Type can be, for example, tech or food or clothes or something like that. And then what I want you to do is I want you to write a program that will be able to sort all of the products from the cheapest to the most expensive. And I also want you to allow to your user that he can enter the name of the product, and then you are going to print the price of that product. You are going to search through your array of products, and when you find that product, you will print the price of that product. And if you don't have the product that he's searching for in your array, then you will print the information that product is not available. And one very important tip that you should keep in mind is that when you are comparing the names of products, then you should keep in mind that if he enters this and this, those are not the same things. So lowercase and uppercase are not the same thing in programming. So please keep that in mind. So that would be all for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you want more videos like this, let me know in the comments. And also, if you have any questions regarding today's video, or if you have any questions regarding programming in general, leave those questions in the comments and I'm going to reply them in some of my future videos. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in some other video. Bye!